I was super lucky to have caught COVID while still in Florida because it meant that I was able to get outside for a little fresh sea air, sunshine, and movement every single day, except one particularly bad afternoon when I was completely incapable. But every other day, I got outside. And one particular day, I was really dragging. So my idea of a walk ended up just heading out to the beach and sitting on a bench and watching the neighbors' small kids try to pull a wagon from the harder packed damp sand at the water's edge through the drier sand all the way back up to the walkway. Over and over and over. And each time, one of them would pick up the handle and yank on it fast and run, and then, as it got slower, just stop pulling. Start and stop. And the kids were getting frustrated, and they were squabbling, and their dad was just letting them figure it out. There were a few semi-tantrums and a couple of incidents of one of them lying in the sand screaming that they couldn't do it, and another one calling the youngest one a couple of names, and the youngest one saying, me do it, and being told that it was just not possible, that it was just too heavy. And then the oldest child developed a plan, and I saw her tell the youngest one to take some of the things out of the wagon so it wasn't as heavy. And then she told the middle child to push while she pulled the wagon by the handle. And in a very serious voice, she told the middle one, "Don't stop. Don't stop." So that's our message for today. By all means, lighten the load, ask for help, but don't stop. Hello, Vedge Heads, Vedge Your Besties. Welcome back to Vedge Your Best, the plant-based podcast. My name's Michele Olander. I'm a certified life coach, a practicing vegan, and I'm here every single week to encourage you to eat more plants and set an impossible goal, whatever that is for you. So today, episode 73, we are going to discuss momentum, okay? The magic of momentum. And if you are physicists or physics teachers or maybe you took the SAT subject test in physics, and if it's going to bug you that I use the word momentum in a scientifically imprecise manner, maybe you should consider shutting this off right now. You could shut it off. Or as an alternative, you could leave the episode on and channel some indulgent patience in my direction and try to appreciate the analogy I'm making with the magic of momentum. But either way, listen or don't, turn the pod on or shut it off, but for goodness sake, don't turn it off and on, off and on, off and on, because that would be pointless, right? It would be absurd. Big waste of your time. You wouldn't accomplish anything on and off. You wouldn't be getting anything from what I was saying, nor would you be using your own time wisely. No one would do that, right? No one. But a lot of us do something very similar when we start and stop working on our goals. Because whatever the goal, whatever it is, it needs some level of consistent new attention and action. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a goal. It would just be Well, it would be something you're already doing, or it could be a fantasy, but not a goal. So last week's podcast had only been out a few hours, and I got a number of messages that this idea of being already behind in mid-January had struck a nerve. Many of you, apparently like my clients and like myself, are already thinking, yeah, we're behind on our goals. But what I see in these situations is where we are doing that same sort of on and off, start and stop with our new goals, or the big new audacious impossible goals we've taken on and off, start and stop, just like the kids with the wagon struggling on the beach. Or you potentially turning the podcast on and off, on and off. It's a terrible idea. And yet we do something similar all the time. We work really hard. We go all in, getting rid of all the animal products in the fridge, for example, or the freezer. And we buy a half dozen vegan cookbooks and ingredients. And then when the whole family's starving and tired and screaming on a weeknight, we've got nothing prepared, and our spouse is staring at us, and we rationalize that we just need to get the kids fed right now. So we grab whatever's familiar or easy. Because what's familiar and easy has not changed yet. Start and stop. Maybe you get the office all cleared out and the closet reorganized, and there are piles of boxes of the stuff you no longer want, but gosh, you don't know what to do with it yet. And so it sits in the hallway or the garage until there are people coming by, and then you shove it back into your office if you're anything like me, or the closet, temporarily, of course. Start and stop. I sit down, I write out a list of podcast topics in the rough order that I want to record and publish them, and I make notes and bullet points, and then I get some interesting emails from a couple listeners, and I put the list aside, and then I decide to take a few hours or days to think about that. Start and stop. Maybe you signed up for Veganuary, or for a vegan challenge this month, and you're completely vegan until that wedding that you RSVP'd for months ago, long before you thought about Veganuary. So you requested fish, and of course the wedding cake isn't vegan, so really what difference does it make now? You'll try to choose vegan foods, but you're off the wagon now. Start and stop. So am I saying that you cannot have any kind of a hiccup in your plan and be successful? No. Am I saying that there can be no veering from your plan? Definitely not. What I'm saying is that to be really helpful in the long run, to get you where you really want to go, your plan needs to take into account not just the hell yeah, all in, straight ahead, best case scenario where nothing goes wrong, right? Your plan needs to support you through the normal sand traps and family issues and garden variety crises of life, as well as when things go really badly. You know, I wasn't feeling very well last week due to COVID, and that had a ripple effect of canceling flights, canceling appointments, rebooking flights. So not a catastrophe, right? But a disruption. And it meant being flexible about a bunch of things I really had no interest in being flexible about. But it didn't mean that everything in my life went out the window, right? I still eat vegan and whole food, plant-based. I still brush my teeth. I didn't brush my hair every day, that's for sure. But certain things, certain checkpoints got hit. I still got out my podcast. Most days I took at least a short walk. And that was helped by being in very nice weather here in Florida, where I caught the COVID to begin with. If I'd been home in Massachusetts, it's possible I would not have left the house, but I might have gotten on the treadmill and slowly tried to move. But I walked a little bit here in Florida, even though my original January plan was to do much more than walk. It was to jog regularly. But walking this past week was all I could manage. So most of us are used to creating best case scenario plans that are supposed to get us to that finish line of our goal. But with my clients, I am always advocating for the plan that is still there when all the best laid plans go awry. And what does that look like? Well, it's going to look different for each of us, depending on what our goals are and what our defaults are, what structures we already have built into our lives. For example, I have one client who has a very ambitious plan to lose weight, but she also has her default plan, the plan that happens no matter what. And that default basic daily plan for her is evaluate the plan from yesterday, make today's plan, no matter how basic, drink 2 liters of water, eat when hungry, stop when satisfied, bed before midnight. Very basic. She's not going to hit her goal right away doing that, but she knows that she will always do those things. That's the basic daily plan. It's something I insist on with all my clients. They all create a daily plan and they use it for themselves, to support themselves, not to use against themselves when things don't go as envisioned. Okay? And it's there to protect their momentum. You know that expression, life happened? Well, the basic daily plan is the plan you know you can still almost perfectly keep working even when life happens. The plan that keeps you moving. It keeps your momentum. Yes, our big, audacious goals require us to be all in. And those are exciting goals. They're goals that inspire us. And they create a big dopamine hit. We get jazzed envisioning the process and we take big action. But most of us, and remember when I say most of us, I mean every single one of us. Every single one of us is going to experience some struggle to keep up that level of energy and commitment for long stretches of time. And a big goal worthy of your limited time here on this planet, well, it's going to need some sustained focus, commitment, and action. So that's why my clients create their basic daily plan, a realistic plan that we know can still happen, even when the flight's canceled or we're stuck in an airport, even when the family's got a tummy bug or the roads are too dangerous to go to the store, or we get a call that a loved one needs us now. That basic daily plan is what helps us know that we can almost always choose the next best thing when the best thing is not possible. So what do I mean about a daily plan that we use for ourselves? I mean that basic daily plan exists to keep us moving forward. And on those occasions when we don't keep to the daily plan, it helps us see where we need more support. And that support might be from others, right? It might mean asking our loved ones for some assistance pushing the wagon or holding down the fort or listening while we complain, maybe. But very often, the support we need most is some infrastructure support, some architecture that we build in our own lives, in our mindsets, and in our homes. You know, it could be as prosaic as having a snack in the fridge or the car or your purse for those moments when you're traveling or delayed or in the carpool line and you're feeling completely out of options. It might mean filling up with high-fiber vegetables and grains at meals first when you start limiting and eliminating animal proteins. It might mean making a practice of trying new foods every week in low-drama situations when you're relaxed and in a good mood, especially if you're someone who has a somewhat limited palate. It might mean slowly adding only a tablespoon or two of beans or legumes into your diet each day if you're not used to eating them to avoid tummy trouble. It might mean looking at restaurant menus online ahead of time or calling the restaurant and discussing what you want to order with the manager rather than deciding at the last minute surrounded by people at a table with a waiter who's busy and has no clue. Your daily plan, the basic daily plan, is the infrastructure you want to maintain every day, the wagon you want to keep moving. Even if your big, audacious plan can't move ahead quite the way you want. And it might be writing yourself an email every day about something you want to create or build. It might be taking a photo every day on your phone. It might mean reaching out and hugging a family member or praising a colleague every day. It might mean bringing fruit and healthy snacks to the office, so there's another option other than donuts and candy. It might mean reading one page of a book you leave on your desk or in your car every day. The details will be as individual as you are. The details belong only to you and your goal. Because the point is, you just want to keep that wagon rolling, even when you can't accomplish everything the way you'd like to. You don't want it to grind to a stop because momentum only exists when things are moving. Many of you have probably experienced or you're familiar with the walk-run method in training for runs, for 5Ks or for marathons. You pick an interval of walking and running, and maybe in the beginning you walk 2 minutes and run for 20 seconds, and then you repeat that 10 times or 20 times until that seems too easy. You change the intervals anytime and as you see fit. Whether it's 30-second run, 1 minute walk, or 5 minutes run and 1 minute walk. That walking break, knowing you are entitled to walk, that you're not doing anything wrong by walking, well, that walking break allows you to keep moving forward while you recover. And if properly planned, you can go much further and faster with a walk-run plan than just running. And in the meantime, the walking breaks help you to avoid injuries, they boost your endurance, and improve motivation. So those of you who have big plans and big goals for this year, or those of you who saw yourselves in last week's podcast thinking you're already behind, this is your work for this week, right? What's your baseline strategy? What is your basic daily plan? What very clear infrastructure do you need to create for yourself so that when your optimal plans do not go as intended, you are still moving forward? So that you're still walking even when you're not running. So you're still gaining skills and getting stronger, even when you aren't firing on all cylinders. So you're still eating in support of your goals, even when you're not eating what you ultimately aspire to be eating. Because if you're still moving, you still have momentum. You don't have to completely restart, which is so much harder to do and so much easier to talk yourself out of. So the basic daily plan is not the one that gets you to the top of Everest or puts an astronaut on Mars or finishes a marathon in under 2 hours or a book on the bestseller list. The basic daily plan is the short list of several items that will keep you from abandoning your plan. And sometimes this can be a bit of a hard sell for some of my clients because they want to talk about best case scenario, the massive action. They don't want to talk about these basics. But for most of us, we want to be very, very sure that what we master is the habit of showing up every day. Does your goal need you to do more than show up? Yeah, okay, most likely. But if you don't show up, you lose momentum. And if you don't show up, you lose the opportunity to fine-tune the skills you're going to need. I don't know who said it, but there's a quote that works here. You need to standardize before you can optimize, right? You need to standardize before you can optimize. You can go a long way imperfectly. You can build a lot. You can get stronger. You can learn new things and make distinctions and build endurance just by showing up. And by showing up, you fight that tendency to discount the value of just showing up. We fall in love with these big plans, these ideas of how we're going to conquer our goal. But the most important plan is the one that keeps you from stopping. We want to avoid the stopping and starting, the onning and offing, regardless of where you are, no matter what your goal is or how close you are to that goal. Creating that basic daily plan means that you massively decrease the possibility of stopping and losing that precious magic momentum. So as I learned watching my neighbor's kids trying to get their wagon through the sand, by all means, lighten the load. Ask for help. But just don't stop. Now, if you're ready to work on how to build momentum in your life for your plan, how to preserve your momentum that you've built, that's something you can bring to a free coaching call with me. You can message me or book yourself directly into my calendar. The links are in the show notes. But just don't stop. Vedge Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Vedge Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.